John Lewis, a seasoned waiter at the upscale restaurant La Belle Époque, had seen many customers come and go over his 10 years of service. Situated in the heart of the city, the restaurant was known for its exquisite cuisine and impeccable service. John was a key part of that reputation. He had a natural charm and a genuine ability to connect with people, regardless of their backgrounds. His dedication to his job was unparalleled, and it showed in the way he treated each guest with the utmost respect and care. One chilly autumn evening, as the restaurant began to fill with its usual clientele of business professionals and couples, an elderly man entered. He moved slowly, relying heavily on a cane. His appearance was striking. His hair was white as snow, and his skin wrinkled from age, but his eyes held a spark of life and curiosity. John noticed him immediately and rushed to assist. "Good evening, sir. Let me help you with that," John said, taking the man's coat and guiding him to a table near the window. "Thank you, young man. Much appreciated," the elderly man replied with a warm smile. His voice was gentle but firm, carrying the weight of many years. John helped the man settle into his seat, ensuring he was comfortable before handing him the menu. "My name is John, and I'll be your waiter tonight. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to ask." The man nodded, his eyes scanning the menu. "I'm Samuel Hawkins. I've heard great things about this place." John's smile widened. "Well, Mr. Hawkins, we aim to live up to our reputation. Can I start you off with a drink?" Samuel pondered for a moment. "A glass of your finest red wine, please, and perhaps you could recommend a dish for an old man like me." "Of course, sir. Our chef's special tonight is a seared duck breast with a cranberry reduction, paired with roasted root vegetables." "It's quite popular," John suggested. "That sounds delightful," Samuel agreed. "I'll have that then." As John walked back to the kitchen to place Samuel's order, he couldn't help but feel a certain curiosity about the old man. There was something about him that stood out, a sense of wisdom and a hint of mystery. Throughout the evening, John made sure to check on Samuel frequently. They exchanged small talk, and John learned that Samuel was a retired professor who had spent his life teaching literature. He had moved to the city recently to be closer to his grandchildren after the passing of his wife. Despite his age and the obvious difficulties he faced, Samuel maintained a positive and engaging demeanor. He complimented the food, the service, and even shared a few anecdotes from his teaching days, which John found fascinating. As the evening progressed, John found himself drawn to Samuel's stories and his gentle nature. He went above and beyond to ensure Samuel had a memorable dining experience. He brought extra bread, refilled his wine glass promptly, and even surprised him with a complimentary dessert. When it was time for Samuel to leave, John helped him with his coat and walked him to the door. "It was a pleasure serving you, Mr. Hawkins. I hope to see you again soon." Samuel patted John on the shoulder. "You've been very kind, John. I appreciate it more than you know. I'll certainly be back." Over the next few weeks, Samuel became a regular at La Belle Époque. He always requested John's section, and they developed a routine. John would bring Samuel his favorite wine without asking, and Samuel would share more stories about his life. It was clear that these visits were something Samuel looked forward to, and John was happy to be a part of it. Their bond grew stronger with each visit, and John began to see Samuel as more than just a customer. He was like a grandfather figure, someone John respected deeply. He admired Samuel's resilience and the way he embraced life despite the challenges he faced. One evening, as John was clearing Samuel's table, Samuel looked up at him with a serious expression. "John, there's something I'd like to talk to you about." John paused, sensing the gravity in Samuel's tone. "Of course, Mr. Hawkins. Is everything all right?" Samuel nodded slowly. "Yes, everything is fine. I just wanted to thank you for your kindness and your excellent service. You've made my visits here very special, and I wanted to give you something as a token of my appreciation." John was taken aback. "Mr. Hawkins, you don't need to give me anything. It's been my pleasure serving you." But Samuel insisted. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. He handed it to John with a smile. "Please, open it when you're home. It's something I've been working on for a while." John accepted the box, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I will." That night, after his shift ended, John took the box home. He sat on his couch, the box resting on the table in front of him. He couldn't help but wonder what it contained. With a mix of curiosity and anticipation, he opened it. Inside the box was a beautifully crafted pocket watch. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with delicate engravings and a polished finish. There was also a note inside. John unfolded it and read, "Dear John, this pocket watch has been in my family for generations. It belonged to my father and his father before him. I've carried it with me for many years, and it has always reminded me of the importance of time and the memories we create. Your kindness and friendship have meant a great deal to me, and I want you to have it as a symbol of my gratitude. I hope it brings you as much joy as it has brought me. Sincerely, Samuel Hawkins." John was deeply moved by the gift and the note. He held the watch in his hand, feeling its weight and the history it carried. He realized that the time he had spent with Samuel was more than just part of his job. It was a meaningful connection that had made a difference in both their lives. From that day forward, John wore the pocket watch with pride, cherishing the memories it represented and the friendship that had formed in the most unexpected of places. A few weeks after receiving the pocket watch, John continued his routine at La Belle Époque. Samuel remained a frequent visitor, and their friendship deepened. One evening, as John was getting ready for his shift, he noticed a letter slipped under his apartment door. Curious, he picked it up and saw Samuel's handwriting on the envelope. John quickly opened the letter and read, "Dear John, I wanted to invite you to my home this Saturday for dinner. It would be a pleasure to have you as my guest. There are some things I would like to share with you, and I believe you will enjoy the evening. Sincerely, Samuel Hawkins." John felt a warm sense of anticipation. He had come to value Samuel's wisdom and company, and the invitation felt like an honor. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. When the day arrived, John dressed in his best casual attire and made his way to Samuel's address. The neighborhood was quaint, with old houses that had a certain charm and character. Samuel's house was a cozy, single-story home with a well-tended garden. John knocked on the door, and Samuel greeted him with a warm smile. "Welcome, John. Come in," Samuel said, ushering him inside. The interior of the house was just as charming as the outside. It was filled with books, old photographs, and an array of artifacts from Samuel's travels and life experiences. The dining table was set elegantly, and the aroma of a home-cooked meal filled the air. "I hope you like roast lamb," Samuel said as they settled at the table. "Smells amazing, Mr. Hawkins," John replied, genuinely impressed. As they enjoyed the delicious meal, Samuel shared more stories from his past, tales of his adventures abroad, his teaching years, and the love story with his late wife, Eleanor. John listened intently, feeling privileged to hear such personal and captivating stories. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Samuel brought out a bottle of aged whiskey and poured them each a glass. "To friendship and the memories we create," he toasted. John raised his glass, deeply moved. "To friendship." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, savoring the warmth of the whiskey and the camaraderie between them. Then Samuel's expression grew more serious. "John, there's something I've been meaning to tell you," Samuel began. "I've been diagnosed with a terminal illness. The doctors say I don't have much time left." John's heart sank. "Mr. Hawkins, I'm so sorry." Samuel held up a hand, smiling gently. "Don't be. I've lived a long and fulfilling life, but there are a few things I need to take care of before I go, and I need your help." "Anything, sir." "Just tell me what you need," John replied earnestly. Samuel handed John a small leather-bound journal. "This journal contains my thoughts, my experiences, and my wishes for the future. I want you to have it. When the time comes, I'd like you to read it and share my stories with others. It's my way of ensuring that my life's journey continues, even after I'm gone." John accepted the journal with a solemn nod. "I promise, Mr. Hawkins. I'll make sure your stories are told." Over the next few months, John spent as much time as he could with Samuel. They visited parks, museums, and Samuel's favorite spots in the city. Each outing was filled with laughter, reflection, and a deeper understanding of life. Eventually, Samuel's health began to decline rapidly. John was there by his side, offering support and comfort. On a quiet winter night, Samuel passed away peacefully in his sleep, with John holding his hand. In the weeks that followed, John honored Samuel's request. He began sharing the stories from the journal, first with friends and family, then with larger groups at community centers and libraries. Samuel's life, filled with wisdom and adventure, touched many hearts. John continued to wear the pocket watch, now a symbol not only of his friendship with Samuel, but also of the promise he had made. He knew that as long as he kept sharing Samuel's stories, the legacy of a remarkable man would live on. Months after Samuel's passing, John continued to honor his friend's memory by sharing Samuel's stories. The journal had become a cherished possession, a source of inspiration and reflection. One evening, after a particularly engaging storytelling session at a local library, John was approached by a young woman. "Excuse me, are you John Lewis?" she asked, her voice tinged with both curiosity and hesitation. "Yes, that's me," John replied with a friendly smile. "How can I help you?" "I'm Emily Hawkins, Samuel's granddaughter," she said, extending her hand. "I've heard so much about you." John was pleasantly surprised. "Emily, it's wonderful to meet you. Your grandfather spoke of you often. Please, join me for a coffee?" They settled at a nearby cafe, and Emily shared her own memories of Samuel. "Grandpa was always full of stories, but he never mentioned the journal. How did you come to have it?" John recounted the tale of their friendship, the gift of the pocket watch, and Samuel's final request. Emily listened intently, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Grandpa was a remarkable man," she said softly. "Thank you for keeping his memory alive." As they continued talking, Emily revealed that she was a writer working on her first novel. "I've been struggling with writer's block for months," she admitted. "Hearing you share Grandpa's stories has given me new inspiration." John felt a sense of fulfillment. "Your grandfather wanted his stories to live on. Perhaps you can incorporate them into your work." Emily nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "I think that's exactly what I need to do." In the following weeks, John and Emily became close friends, bonded by their shared love and respect for Samuel. They often met to discuss Emily's progress on her novel, with John providing insights and encouragement. Emily found that weaving her grandfather's wisdom and adventures into her narrative gave her writing a new depth and authenticity. One afternoon, as they were sitting in the park where Samuel and John had spent many afternoons, Emily handed John a manuscript. "It's finished," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "I couldn't have done it without you." John accepted the manuscript with reverence. "I'm honored to have been a part of this journey." Emily's novel, titled Echoes of a Wanderer's Heart, was a beautiful tribute to her grandfather's life. It was published to critical acclaim, touching readers with its heartfelt portrayal of Samuel's wisdom and the enduring power of human connection. The book's success brought John a sense of closure and fulfillment. He had kept his promise to Samuel and, in the process, had forged a meaningful friendship with Emily. The stories he had once shared in small gatherings were now reaching a wider audience, ensuring that Samuel's legacy would continue to inspire future generations. John continued to work at La Belle Époque, his life enriched by the experiences and relationships that had blossomed from a simple act of kindness. The pocket watch remained a constant reminder of the time he had spent with Samuel and the profound impact one person could have on another's life. Years later, as John looked back on his journey, he realized that the greatest gift Samuel had given him was not the watch or the journal, but the understanding that every moment shared and every story told has the power to change lives. And with that wisdom, John knew he would continue to honor Samuel's memory, one story at a time. John's life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. His evenings at La Belle Époque were filled with the usual hustle and bustle, but now there was an added sense of purpose. He continued to share Samuel's stories, not just at the restaurant, but also at various community events. Each telling seemed to breathe new life into the memories, and John felt a deep sense of connection to his departed friend. One evening, as John was finishing his shift, he noticed a man lingering near the entrance. He was middle-aged, with a weathered face and an air of quiet determination. John approached him with a welcoming smile. "Good evening. Can I help you with something?" John asked. The man extended his hand. "My name is Robert. I'm a historian. I've been researching a series of journals from a man named Samuel Hawkins. I recently came across your name and how you've been sharing his stories. John's curiosity was piqued. Yes, Samuel was a dear friend. He entrusted me with his journal before he passed. Robert nodded. I've been piecing together a larger narrative about Samuel's life and contributions. There are gaps in the history that I believe you can help fill. Would you be willing to work with me? John agreed, and over the next few weeks he and Robert delved deep into Samuel's past. They discovered that Samuel had been more than just a professor and traveler. He had also been an unsung hero in several humanitarian efforts around the world. His journals, filled with detailed accounts and observations, were a treasure trove of historical significance. As they pieced together Samuel's story, Robert proposed an idea. John, what if we turned this into a documentary? Samuel's life deserves to be known by a wider audience. The prospect was daunting, but John felt a renewed sense of purpose. They gathered a small team, including Emily, who eagerly offered her storytelling expertise. Together, they embarked on the journey to bring Samuel's legacy to life on screen. The documentary project took them to various locations that had been significant in Samuel's life. From the serene landscapes of rural England, where Samuel had spent his childhood, to the bustling streets of cities where he had taught and inspired many, John and the team followed in Samuel's footsteps. Each location unveiled new stories and connections, enriching their understanding of Samuel's impact. They interviewed former students, colleagues, and friends, all of whom shared their own memories and anecdotes. The documentary began to take shape, a tapestry of Samuel's life woven together by the voices of those he had touched. One of the most poignant moments came when they visited a remote village in Africa where Samuel had helped build a school. The villagers remembered him fondly, recounting how his kindness and dedication had transformed their community. John was deeply moved, realizing just how far-reaching Samuel's influence had been. As the documentary neared completion, John felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The project had not only honored Samuel's memory, but had also brought together a diverse group of people who had been inspired by his life. The final product, titled The Legacy of Samuel Hawkins, premiered at a local film festival and received overwhelming acclaim. John stood on stage with Robert and Emily addressing the audience. This documentary is a testament to the power of one man's kindness and the lasting impact he can have on the world. Samuel Hawkins was more than just a teacher or a traveler. He was a beacon of hope and inspiration. Through his stories, we can all learn the value of compassion and the importance of leaving a positive mark on the world. The film's success brought Samuel's story to a global audience, ensuring that his legacy would live on for generations. John felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had fulfilled his promise to his friend. He continued to share Samuel's stories, now supported by the powerful documentary that had captured the essence of a remarkable man. And so John carried forward the torch of storytelling, illuminating the lives of those around him with the wisdom and warmth he had inherited from Samuel Hawkins. With the success of The Legacy of Samuel Hawkins, John found his life taking an unexpected turn. Invitations to speak about Samuel and the documentary poured in from schools, universities, and community centers across the country. John embraced this new role, eager to share the impact Samuel had on his life and the lives of so many others. One crisp autumn day, John received a call from an old friend, Karen, who worked as a dean at a prestigious university. "John, I've seen the documentary and it's truly inspiring. Our university would love to have you come and speak. We also have a proposition for you." Intrigued, John agreed to visit. Upon arriving, he was warmly welcomed by Karen and the university's staff. After a heartfelt lecture where John shared Samuel's stories and the lessons he had learned, Karen took him aside. "John, we've been deeply moved by your journey and the documentary. We'd like to offer you a position here as a guest lecturer. You'd teach a course on storytelling and its impact on history and culture," Karen explained. John was taken aback. Teaching had never been part of his plan, but the idea excited him. It felt like a natural progression, a new way to honor Samuel's legacy. "I'm honored, Karen. I'd love to take on this role." Settling into his new position, John found himself surrounded by eager students. He designed the course to be interactive, encouraging students to explore their own family histories and personal stories. He integrated Samuel's journal, using it as a cornerstone to demonstrate the power of personal narratives in understanding broader historical contexts. One day, a student named Mia approached John after class. "Professor Lewis, your course has inspired me to look into my grandmother's past. She was a Holocaust survivor, and I've found her old letters. They're incredible." John smiled, seeing a spark in Mia that reminded him of himself. "That's wonderful, Mia. Would you like to share some of her letters with the class?" Mia's presentation was moving, and it spurred other students to delve into their own histories. The classroom became a space of shared stories and collective learning, mirroring the way John had felt when listening to Samuel. As the semester progressed, John introduced the idea of a class project, compiling their stories into a book. The students enthusiastically embraced the project, and John guided them through the process of editing, organizing, and publishing their collective work. They titled the book Echoes of Our Ancestors. The book launch was a touching event. Families, friends, and faculty gathered to celebrate the students' achievements. As John looked around the room, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was more than just a class project. It was a testament to the enduring power of storytelling and the connections it forged. Later that evening, as John sat in his office, he opened Samuel's journal once more. Each page was a reminder of the journey they had shared, the lives they had touched, and the stories that had yet to be told. He realized that Samuel's gift had not just been a physical object or even the stories themselves. It was the understanding that every life, every experience, was a story worth sharing. John had become a conduit for these stories, passing on the wisdom and warmth he had received from Samuel. As he closed the journal, John felt a sense of peace and purpose. He knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where he could continue to inspire others to find and share their own stories. And in doing so, he would keep Samuel's legacy alive, lighting the way for future generations to come. John's life at the university thrived. His course on storytelling became one of the most popular classes, and the success of Echoes of Our Ancestors had garnered attention beyond the academic world. Publishers and media outlets took interest, leading to interviews and articles that praised the innovative approach John had taken in preserving and sharing personal histories. One rainy afternoon, as John was preparing for his next lecture, he received a letter with no return address. The handwriting was neat and unfamiliar. He opened it curiously and began to read. "Dear John, I recently came across an article about your work in the documentary on Samuel Hawkins. My name is Margaret Turner. I believe my father, Thomas Turner, was a close friend of Samuel's many years ago. He spoke fondly of a man named Samuel who influenced him greatly during a difficult period in his life. I would love to meet and share more with you. Sincerely, Margaret Turner." John was intrigued. He contacted Margaret, and they arranged to meet at a small cafe in the city. When John arrived, he saw a woman in her 60s with a kind face and a warm smile, waving at him from a corner table. "John, it's so nice to meet you in person," Margaret said, standing to greet him. "The pleasure is mine, Margaret. Please tell me about your father and his connection to Samuel," John replied as they sat down. Margaret began to recount her father's stories. Thomas Turner had been a young man struggling with the aftermath of war when he met Samuel. Samuel had taken him under his wing, offering guidance, support, and a friendship that had helped Thomas rebuild his life. They had shared many adventures, some of which Margaret had documented in her father's old journals. "After my father passed away, I found these journals," Margaret explained, pulling out a worn, leather-bound book. "Reading about his time with Samuel brought me a sense of connection I had never fully understood. I believe there are stories here that might complete your understanding of Samuel's life." John accepted the journal with reverence. "Thank you, Margaret. This means more to me than I can express. I'd love to read these and see how they fit into the tapestry of Samuel's legacy." They continued to talk for hours, exchanging stories and memories. John felt a profound sense of connection, not just to Margaret, but to the broader narrative that Samuel's life represented. Back at the university, John spent evenings poring over Thomas Turner's journal. The stories within were rich with detail and emotion, adding new dimensions to Samuel's character. He learned about Samuel's compassion during times of crisis, his unwavering support for his friends, and the profound impact he had on everyone he met. Inspired by these new stories, John decided to create a follow-up project with his students. He proposed a second volume titled The Unseen Threads, which would weave together the newly discovered stories from Thomas Turner's journal with the ongoing personal narratives of his students. The project ignited a new wave of enthusiasm. John's students were eager to contribute, bringing fresh stories from their own families and communities. The classroom buzzed with creativity and collaboration as they worked together to compile the new book. During this period, John and Margaret grew closer, often meeting to discuss their progress. Margaret's insights into her father's life provided invaluable context, enriching the project even further. Their collaboration felt like a bridge between past and present, a testament to the enduring power of personal connections. The Unseen Threads was finally completed and launched at a grand event at the university. The book was met with overwhelming praise, celebrated for its heartfelt stories and the seamless way it connected different lives across generations. As John stood before the audience holding the new book, he felt an immense sense of accomplishment. This project is a tribute to the hidden connections that bind us all. It's about the unseen threads that weave through our lives, connecting us in ways we might never fully realize. Through these stories, we honor not just Samuel Hawkins and Thomas Turner, but every individual whose life has been touched by their kindness and wisdom. The applause that followed was thunderous, but it was the quiet, heartfelt thanks from individuals who felt seen and heard through these stories that truly moved John. In the days that followed, John reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From his time at La Belle Époque, serving an elderly man with a twinkle in his eye, to standing on stage, celebrating a project that had touched countless lives. It was a journey marked by unexpected friendships, profound stories, and the understanding that the most ordinary moments can lead to extraordinary connections. John knew that this was not the end, but rather a continuation. There were always more stories to uncover, more lives to touch, and more unseen threads to weave together. With a heart full of gratitude and a mind brimming with ideas, he looked forward to the future, ready to continue the legacy of storytelling and connection that Samuel had entrusted to him. John's life was now interwoven with the stories of Samuel Hawkins and the countless lives touched by his legacy. The success of the Unseen Threads brought new opportunities, and John embraced each one with enthusiasm. One evening, as he was wrapping up a lecture, he received a message that would set him on an unexpected path. The message was from a literary agent named Anna Reynolds, who had read both Echoes of Our Ancestors and The Unseen Threads. She proposed a collaboration on a new book that would explore the transformative power of storytelling on a global scale. Intrigued, John agreed to meet her. Over coffee, Anna explained her vision. "John, your work has shown how personal stories can bridge gaps between generations and cultures. I want to take this a step further. Let's create a book that not only tells stories, but also explores the impact they have on societies worldwide." The idea resonated deeply with John. He had always believed in the universal power of stories to connect people. They began planning the project titled Stories That Unite Us, which would feature narratives from diverse cultures, exploring how storytelling shapes identities and communities. John and Anna traveled to different countries, immersing themselves in local traditions and collecting stories from people of all walks of life. In India, they met a storyteller who preserved ancient folklore through vibrant performances. In Kenya, they spoke with a woman who used stories to educate and empower young girls. In Brazil, they encountered a community that celebrated their history through song and dance. Each story added a new layer to their understanding of humanity's shared experiences. John found himself inspired by the resilience, creativity, and wisdom of the people they met. The project became more than just a book. It was a celebration of the rich tapestry of human life. During their travels, John kept in touch with Margaret and Emily, sharing updates and seeking their input. Their insights added depth to the narratives, ensuring the stories were presented with authenticity and respect. As the manuscript for Stories That Unite Us took shape, John realized how far he had come from his days as a waiter at La Belle Époque. His journey had been one of growth, fueled by the connections he made and the stories he shared. The project was a testament to the enduring power of Samuel's legacy, which had set him on this remarkable path. When the book was finally published, it was met with widespread acclaim. Stories That Unite Us resonated with readers around the world, reminding them of the common threads that bind humanity together. The book's success led to speaking engagements, interviews, and even a documentary that followed John and Anna's journey. At a grand book launch event surrounded by friends, family, and collaborators, John reflected on the journey. He spoke to the audience with heartfelt emotion. This book is a testament to the power of stories. They are the threads that connect us, no matter where we come from or what our experiences are. Through stories, we find understanding, compassion, and unity. The applause was deafening, but it was the quiet moments afterward that touched John the most. People approached him, sharing how the book had inspired them to explore their own histories and connect with others in meaningful ways. That evening, as John sat in his study, he opened Samuel's journal once more. He traced the familiar handwriting and felt a deep sense of gratitude. Samuel had not only given him stories, but had also guided him toward a purpose that enriched his life and the lives of others. John knew that this was yet another beginning. There were always more stories to uncover, more voices to amplify, and more connections to make. With a heart full of gratitude and a mind brimming with ideas, he looked forward to the next chapter, ready to continue the legacy of storytelling and connection that had become his life's work. The success of Stories That Unite Us catapulted John into a new realm of influence and opportunity. Invitations poured in from universities, cultural institutions, and international forums, all eager to hear about the transformative power of storytelling. John embraced these opportunities, using each platform to advocate for the preservation and sharing of personal narratives. One morning, as John was preparing for a keynote speech at an international literary festival, he received a call from an unfamiliar number. The voice on the other end was warm and enthusiastic. "Hello, Mr. Lewis. My name is Dr. Laura Cheng, and I'm the director of the Global Storytelling Initiative. We're a non-profit organization dedicated to preserving oral histories from around the world. We've been following your work closely and would love to collaborate with you on a special project." Intrigued, John agreed to meet with Dr. Cheng. They discussed the initiative's mission and the potential for a joint project that would involve training local storytellers in various communities to document and share their own histories. The project would culminate in a global anthology of stories, highlighting the diverse yet interconnected human experience. "This could be a groundbreaking endeavor, John," Dr. Chung said passionately. "Your expertise and vision would be invaluable." John felt a surge of excitement. This was the perfect extension of his work with Samuel's stories and the subsequent projects. "I'm in," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "Let's bring these stories to the world." The collaboration with the Global Storytelling Initiative took John to new places and introduced him to incredible individuals. He traveled to remote villages, bustling cities, and places with rich yet underrepresented histories. He conducted workshops, teaching people how to craft and preserve their narratives. In a small village in Peru, he met a young girl named Sophia, whose stories of her ancestors' resilience against colonial forces captivated him. In the heart of Mongolia, an elderly herder named Batu shared epic tales of the steppes, passed down through generations. Each story added a unique thread to the tapestry of human history. As the project progressed, John found himself deeply moved by the stories of strength, love, and survival. He realized that while the specifics of each story were unique, the underlying themes of hope and humanity were universal. Back in the United States, John worked tirelessly with Dr. Chung and their team to compile and edit the anthology. They decided to title it Voices of the World, a Global Anthology of Stories. The book was designed to be more than just a collection of narratives. It was a celebration of the diversity and interconnectedness of human experience. The launch of Voices of the World was a momentous occasion. Held at the United Nations headquarters, the event drew storytellers, diplomats, and cultural leaders from around the globe. John, standing at the podium, felt a profound sense of achievement and gratitude. "Stories are the heartbeat of our shared humanity," John began, addressing the audience. "They remind us of where we come from, who we are, and what we can become. This anthology is a testament to the power of storytelling to bridge divides, foster understanding, and unite us all." The response was overwhelmingly positive. The anthology was hailed as a landmark work, praised for its authenticity and emotional depth. It became a powerful tool for cultural exchange and education, used in schools and communities worldwide to promote empathy and global awareness. In the months that followed, John continued his work with renewed vigor. The success of the anthology opened doors to new collaborations and projects, each one building on the foundation laid by Samuel's stories. John felt that he was not just preserving history, but actively shaping the future by fostering a culture of storytelling and connection. One evening, as John reflected on his journey, he realized that Samuel's legacy had become a part of his own. The pocket watch, the journal, and the stories were all symbols of a journey that had transformed his life. And as he looked to the future, he knew that there were countless more stories to uncover and share. With a heart full of gratitude and a vision for a more connected world, John embraced the next chapter of his life, ready to continue the work that had become his passion and his purpose. The legacy of storytelling, now intertwined with his own, would live on, touching lives and bridging divides for generations to come. As John's influence grew, so did his responsibilities. The Global Storytelling Initiative had expanded, with new projects springing up in places John had never even dreamed of visiting. Amidst all the excitement, John received an email that stood out. It was from a young, aspiring storyteller named Alex, who was a student at a local community college. "Dear Mr. Lewis, your work has been a profound inspiration to me. I've always believed in the power of stories, but I struggle with finding my voice and knowing how to share it effectively. Would you be willing to mentor me? Sincerely, Alex Ramirez." John was moved by the sincerity of the request. He remembered how Samuel had mentored him, shaping his path and igniting his passion. Eager to give back, he agreed to meet Alex. They met at a cozy coffee shop, and John was immediately struck by Alex's enthusiasm and determination. Alex shared his background, explaining how storytelling had been a way to cope with the challenges of growing up in a tough neighborhood. He wanted to use his stories to inspire and uplift others, but he needed guidance. John agreed to mentor Alex, and they began meeting regularly. He taught Alex the intricacies of crafting compelling narratives, emphasizing the importance of authenticity and emotional connection. He encouraged Alex to draw from personal experiences and to speak from the heart. Under John's mentorship, Alex blossomed. He started writing more confidently, and his stories began to resonate with a wider audience. John introduced Alex to his network, helping him gain opportunities to share his work at local events and community centers. One day, Alex came to John with an idea. "Mr. Lewis, I want to start a storytelling program at my community college. I've seen how powerful these stories can be, and I think it could make a real difference for students like me." John was thrilled. "That's a fantastic idea, Alex. I'll support you every step of the way." Together, they developed a program that encouraged students to explore their own stories and share them in a supportive environment. The program included workshops, storytelling sessions, and even a small publication where students could see their work in print. The program was an instant success. Students who had once felt voiceless found their confidence through storytelling. The college community became more connected, with people from diverse backgrounds coming together to share and listen. At the end of the first year, the college hosted a storytelling festival to celebrate the students' work. Alex stood on stage, ready to share his journey. He looked out at the audience, which included his family, friends, and John, sitting proudly in the front row. "Stories have the power to change lives," Alex began. "They connect us, heal us, and help us understand each other. This program has given me and my peers a platform to be heard, and it's all thanks to the guidance and support of Mr. John Lewis." The audience erupted in applause. John felt a swell of pride and emotion. Mentoring Alex had been a rewarding experience, reminding him of the impact one person can have on another's life. After the festival, John and Alex stood together, reflecting on the journey they had shared. "You've done amazing work, Alex. I'm incredibly proud of you," John said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I couldn't have done it without you," Alex replied. "You've been more than a mentor. You've been a beacon of inspiration." As John walked home that evening, he realized that the cycle of mentorship and storytelling had come full circle. Samuel's influence had not only shaped his life, but had now extended to Alex and many others. The stories, connections, and lessons would continue to ripple outward, touching countless lives. John knew that his journey was far from over. There were more stories to uncover, more voices to uplift, and more lives to touch. With a heart full of gratitude and a steadfast commitment to the power of storytelling, he looked forward to the future, ready to continue the legacy that had become his life's mission. Years passed, and John's influence continued to grow. His storytelling initiatives spread to more schools and communities, both locally and internationally. He became a well-respected figure in the field of narrative therapy, a method that used storytelling to heal and empower individuals. Through it all, John remained humble, always attributing his success to the lessons he learned from Samuel Hawkins. One day, John received a letter that would bring his journey full circle. It was from the board of directors at La Belle Époque, the restaurant where his journey began. They invited him to a special event to commemorate their 50th anniversary and asked him to be the guest of honor. They wanted to celebrate the impact he had made on their community and beyond. John accepted the invitation with a mixture of nostalgia and gratitude. Returning to La Belle Époque felt like revisiting the roots of his story. On the night of the event, the restaurant was beautifully decorated, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Familiar faces from his past greeted him warmly. As the evening progressed, John was invited to speak. Standing at the same spot where he once served meals, he felt a deep connection to his past and the path he had traveled. "Thank you all for this incredible honor," John began, his voice steady and heartfelt. "This place holds a special place in my heart. It was here that I met Samuel Hawkins, a man whose stories and wisdom changed my life forever." He paused, looking around the room at the attentive faces. "Samuel taught me the power of stories, not just as a way to entertain, but as a means to connect, heal, and inspire. His legacy lives on in the stories we tell and the lives we touch." John shared anecdotes from his journey, highlighting the impact of the storytelling programs and the countless individuals who had found their voice through them. He spoke of Alex's success and the global anthology that had united so many different cultures and experiences. "Every story is a thread that weaves into the fabric of our shared humanity," John concluded. "As we continue to tell our stories, we honor those who came before us and inspire those who will follow. Thank you for being a part of this journey." The applause was thunderous, and John felt a deep sense of fulfillment. After the speech, he mingled with the guests, reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. Among them was Margaret, who had become a close friend and collaborator, and Emily, whose writing career had flourished. As the night drew to a close, John found himself alone in the quiet of the restaurant, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He pulled out the pocket watch Samuel had given him and held it in his hand, feeling its comforting weight. "Thank you, Samuel," he whispered, "for everything." Suddenly, a familiar voice broke the silence. "John?" He turned to see a young woman standing at the entrance. She introduced herself as Lily, a student from one of his storytelling workshops. "I just wanted to thank you. Your guidance and stories have helped me more than you'll ever know." John smiled warmly. "It's my pleasure, Lily. Remember, your story is powerful. Keep sharing it." Lily nodded, her eyes shining with gratitude. As she left, John felt a profound sense of peace. The circle of storytelling, mentorship, and connection continued to expand, touching new lives and creating new legacies. Returning home that night, John opened Samuel's journal one last time. He added a final entry, recounting the events of the evening and the profound sense of completion he felt. Closing the journal, he knew it was time to pass it on. The next day, John met with Alex and handed him the journal. "This has been a guiding light for me. I believe it's time for you to carry it forward." Alex accepted the journal with reverence. "I'll cherish it, Mr. Lewis. Thank you." As John walked away, he felt lighter, knowing that Samuel's legacy was in good hands. He had fulfilled his promise, and in doing so, had found his own place in the tapestry of stories that connected them all. With a heart full of gratitude and a future full of possibilities, John embraced the next chapter of his life, ready to continue the work he loved and to inspire the next generation of storytellers. The legacy of Samuel Hawkins would live on, not just through the stories, but through the lives they touched, ensuring that the power of storytelling would never fade.